Toot building. Love it, dog. Love when I get to hit that gong starting in, man. Much love, Toot Robinson in that Cash App. What's good, people? What's good? What's good? Hey, man, let's carry this conversation on from where we left it, where it was left. Terrence Crawford, man. Tried to been told you. But we'll wait for Cass to get in. Star City J, what's going on, man? Omega Red, what's going on? Texas Bubba 6, Dark Truth, Syndicate J, Richard Bowens. Come on, man, with this thing beeping. What's going on, man? Richard Bowens, Star City J, Messiah, let's go. All right, man. What's going on, Dago 619? Ivy Webb, good morning. You are featured in my next video. A thank you for all you do for the channel, Ivy Webb. So check out the videos if you like to hear your name on videos. Justin Marsh in the building. Much love to that super chat, man. Thank you, sir. No notification bill. Hey, I'm on the same time all the time. We got some stuff more than likely cats are gonna have to work out over the next couple of days with this Google Hangouts going away. I transitioned off of Google Hangouts. I did, just so you guys know, there's people, I haven't tried this out yet, but there is something called there's an application that's out there that's in beta testing that's gonna allows you to have multiple people on the calls on YouTube. So there should be a workaround for, is it StreamYard? There's StreamYard, there's something else, but StreamYard, I'll definitely check it out because I got to figure out something for OG. I got to figure out something for OG Boxing Talk because Google Hangouts is going away from YouTube. No fan stand boxing. What's going on? I'm done with Bud. He's way worse than Thurman as far as dealing with the public and the black media. Look, man, I don't have a problem with Bud from this perspective. Bud's an asshole. He is. That's his personality. I got some real good friends. Of mine, man, that are asses. That's just how they are. They're asses. They rude. They quick to be rude. They don't like to talk. They don't like to talk to people. They just not the friendliest people in the world. And Bud never struck me as a very friendly person, man. You know, just never struck. He never struck me that way. So I'm not going to have any issue now. Any more of an issue now than I had then, because there are some people that are just, you know, it's like you want to talk to them. You say, "What's up? How you doing?" And they just look at you like, you know, like that. Like it's got like they expect you to, I don't know what it is, man. But that's just how they are. So I mean, he's the same person he always been. It doesn't surprise me. He's not an asshole to the guys he chooses to interview with. Dog, he's being told to interview with them by people that are paying his check, I suppose. But no, he seems like a jerk with them too. I mean, to tell you the truth, even that interview where he said, "What side of the street?" Dog, he was being a jerk to Chris Mannix. What side of the street? What you talking about? You know, he was kind of aggressive with him a little bit, but he gave him the interview. But so what? I mean, that's why I don't want to do interviews with people, man. I could do interviews for days. I don't want to do interviews, man. But I will tell you what Black Fight Fan TV hit on is big. What he hit on was big. What's going on, T-Dub? It's big. My favorite fighter, Muhammad Ali, all time, dog. You never heard anything like that about that dude. And that guy was 1,000 times more popular, 1,000 times more well-known, and never did anybody like, I mean, I'm sure he said something jerkish to somebody here and there, but was very well known for going out of his way to talk to people and being a people person. The cat was a people person, you know? Mayweather's not a people person. You know, I don't see Terrence Crawford being much different. He's just not as phony as Mayweather. Mayweather got a good dash of phony. He got a front. He's got a face he puts on. I don't see Bud putting that face on. He's just not a very charismatic guy. Where you have Errol Spence on the other hand, and now that I've been around him personally and watched how he moved, Dog, I mean, if somebody asked him for something, you look at the way Fred asks questions to him. He has the type of personality where he'll stop and he'll engage and think about what you actually think about his answer to your question, even though he's had the same questions a bunch of times. He's attentive to it. You know what I mean? That's just a personality. That's a personality thing. But as far as what's going on with my favorite also, but watch Joe Lewis fight. Wow, yeah, Joe Lewis can fight, man. For 9, Floyd has sat put with fans for an hour plus signing autographs on many occasions. Yeah, I mean, my dog, he ain't the friendliest dude in the world now. I mean, I've been around Floyd Mayweather, dog. He's not the friendliest dude in the world. He's very talkative. He's very engaging. But hey, man, you know, that's my observation. I could be very, very wrong about it. You know, I could be very, very wrong about it. But there are people that are just very engaging people, man. There's, you know, somebody that I thought was like that. You know Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith? I met her. That chick is engaging. She's just very nice. She gives you a feeling that she appreciates being around you. She doesn't give you this. She doesn't give you the air that you're doing something like, you know, that you're invading her space. But, you know, it is what it is, man. I don't really care whether the dude signs my autographs or not, because I ain't asking the dude for a picture. I ain't asking him for an autograph. You know, I want to see the dude fight. I said for 9, he's an ass, but he was very civil and quiet when Teddy Atlas dissed him on live on TV. Yeah, absolutely, because he knows who the boss is. He knows who the boss is. You know, look, man, he works for Bob Arum. He works for Bob Arum. He works for Top Rank. That's who he works for. And I don't want to hear this nonsense. Said I will never ask somebody for an autograph. I asked one person for an autograph for my life, and that was Dr. J. And I was hotel, and he told me no. But he said, hey, because I'm on vacation, even though I was on vacation in the Bermuda at the same time. But he said, I'll give you a handshake. And I shook his hand. You know, I'm glad he did, because I didn't have anything to get an autograph with anyway. It was just a nervous reaction. Like, man, aren't you Julius Erving? I guess I'm supposed to ask you for an interview, an autograph. Man, I think I was like 14 at the time. That's that Neely Fuller Jr. logic. What's that, Kevin Shepard? Look, he does know who the boss is, though. He knows who the boss is, just like these guys that do all this disrespecting to Al Haymon. Those guys stay on code. They know who the boss is too, which is why they will point their fingers at Al Haymon, but won't say anything about the zone. They won't say anything about Top Rank. I just read this article. Well, I didn't read through it. I ain't gonna lie. I skimmed through it. He knows who the boss is. Yeah. I met Chance the Rapper here in London and Lincoln Park. Okay, cool. I did. What was I going to say, man? I just read this. I skimmed through this article that is on something called Boxing Esquire. It's a podcast by this attorney who is a man. I think he's a business manager, right? Who is licensed to practice law. That's my understanding of what he is. And he interviewed this author. And they talked about whether or not they think that this large amount of money that is being paid and invested in boxing is going to last. And the only example that they used was Al Haymon. Ignored the fact that the only person that is throwing massive amounts of money at somebody to take fights that are not where the well might run out is DAZN. DAZN is paying guys $35 million to take the fight off a pay-per-view. He paid Canelo Alvarez $30 million to fight Rocky Fielding in front of 300,000 people on a closed network. But in their conversation, they don't feel like they can't criticize John Skipper and ESPN. They can criticize Al Haymon. You know, they know who the boss is too. And they know that there's a lot less that's going to happen to them. There's a lot less fewer ramifications if you talk about Al Haymon than if you talk about John Skipper and John Skipper DAZN, ESPN, Teddy Atlas, they're never challenging their own. They never challenge. I won't say never, rarely ever challenge their own. They challenge people. They use people who they believe are the least threat to them to communicate an issue. Teddy Atlas is out of. There's no rationale whatsoever for Vasily Lomachenko to be the number one pound for pound fighter over Andre Ward or Teddy Atlas. He can say that, but yet he's still considered a boxing guru who ain't, by the way, has as many professional fights as I do. I have the same record he does. Stand boxing, bro. I swear I cannot send a super chat. Everything text is telling me review my message and try again. No profanity or anything. Hey man, just go cash. Just do Cash App. Do Cash App. That's fine. Or do Venmo. Either way, dude. Or just leave me your comment. If that's not work, do Cash App. It works the same way. You got to put your card information in it the same way. Just tell me, put in just like you did right there, and I'll read your comment, man. I read people's comments. You don't have to give super chats for me to read your comment. That would be in a super chat. Just I can see that in my screen very clearly as it says it in red. When you put @Fanon International Boxing, it was orange for me. It shows up in orange. So just put it there. And I'll try my best not to miss it. If I don't get it the first time, put it in there again with the same red letter. What's the Cash App? Cash App is it's just basically like a way to donate money, and it goes straight into. It comes off your debit card and goes straight to me, and I get it on my phone. And I'll say, "Oh, okay, boom." Just go to your Google store and download Cash App if Super Chat's not working. There you go. Fan no stand hit it twice. Much love in that super chat, man. You hit it twice, though. You hit it twice. Not Roger. What's my Kovalev versus Yard prediction? Man, Stan, you sent 3. Stop. Whatever happened, dog, stop. You make me feel like I got to give you a refund, man. But much love in that super chat, no doubt about it, man. I lean towards Sergey Kovalev, no doubt about it. Dang, you sitting these, you sit them, Span. Hey, you mean to be doing that? Let me know, dog. If you mean to be doing that, cool. If you don't mean to be doing it, just hit me up on my email, man. I'll find a way to get it back. More than likely, you tried to send it and it just kept going. Kovalev, KO Yard. Nah, I don't think he's gonna. I think Yard is a little too big for him to get knocked out by Kovalev. But what I would say is, I just want to see the fight play out. I think this is too early for him to fight Kovalev, but maybe they see something in Kovalev. And to fight Kovalev in Russia, honestly, I don't care about the fight. I don't really think that highly of Anthony Yard. I mean, but people know, man, I'm not big on muscle-bound boxers, man. Fanon, I meant to. Fanon, it was $5 super chat. Just saluting you. Thank you, man. Appreciate you, man. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Y'all act like Bud was supposed to beat Teddy up. I didn't act like that. I don't know anybody did. He's saying that he's mighty rude. They're just. Anyway, it is what it is, man. I don't have a problem with Bud being like that, man. The dude's a fighter. That's, whatever. It's a lot of jerks. I mean, I've seen the way that Adrian Bronner behaves is worse to me. But I'm not running around asking these dudes to talk. I don't want to have conversations with these dudes, man. And Bud is very much a street type of dude. And he's very aggressive. He likes to fight. And the only issue that I have with Bud is stop complaining about a fight you ain't getting that you decided you didn't want to have. You made a choice not to make that fight. Don't act like it's other people's. And I'm not even tripping on Bud. I'm tripping on y'all Bud fans acting like it's Errol Spence's responsibility or Al Haymon's responsibility to solve Terrence Crawford's problems. And it's not. It's not their responsibility. Terrence Crawford decided to sign with Top Rank knowing that there was issues between the two, which have been exacerbated by Bob Arum. That's on Bud. And everybody else is doing unification fights. It's not like Bud is the only one that ain't fighting. Okay? Just to be clear, Bud is the only one that's not fighting nobody. Errol Spence fought Mikey Garcia. He's fighting Sean Porter. He fought Kell Brook. He won the belt off Kell Brook, who probably was the top welterweight at the time. He beat, unless you wanted, he lost to Koval. He lost to Gennady Golovkin before that. But anyway, he's fighting Sean Porter. That is as good a fight as Errol Spence Terrence Crawford in regards to what it means in boxing. He's trying to unify belts. You have Manny Pacquiao. Keith Thurman fought Manny Pacquiao and lost, but Manny Pacquiao consolidated the belts in 147 pounds. Danny Garcia has fought Keith Thurman, and Danny Garcia fought Sean Porter. Sean Porter has fought everybody. Sean Porter has fought Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Kell Brook, and he's about to fight Errol Spence. Sean Porter has fought everybody. The only person that has not fought anybody at welterweight of note is Terrence Crawford. And you want to blame these guys who are all fighting each other and blame them for the fact that they're not fighting Terrence Crawford because they won't breach a gap that is caused by Bob Arum. Bob Arum sued the PBC. Bob Arum sued Al Haymon. Bob Arum and whatever Bob orders organization doesn't even rank PBC fighters. I don't get why you guys want to put the pressure on Deontay. I don't see why you want to put the pressure on anybody in the PBC to make that Terrence Crawford fight. I would love for it to happen, but the responsibility is over there. Exactly, and Bob called for a PBC boycott. He wants them to boycott and shut down that whole organization. But you guys, because you like Terrence Crawford's fighting style, are willing to just overlook all that? I think that's unrealistic. You want to do that, cool. But I think that's highly unrealistic, okay? You are letting your fanness of Terrence Crawford blind your judgment. Because I've had conversations with very reasonable people when it comes to Terrence Crawford that blow my mind. From very reasonable people, too. But come on, man. This is on Terrence Crawford. It's on Terrence Crawford alone. IBF barely ranks Americans. How do you figure? Why would you say that? How many IBF champions? Tevin Farmer is an IBF champion. Gervonta Davis has been an IBF champion. Terrence Crawford's been an IBF champion. Errol Spence Jr. is a IBF champion. Andy Ruiz is an IBF champion. Who's the IBF champion at 168? I don't know. I have to look into that, though. I haven't seen the IBF have a problem with Americans. I've seen only promotional body that I see having problems with a certain group of people. Oh, Caleb Plant. Yeah, Caleb Plant. If Caleb Plant's the IBF champion, there's plenty of American IBF champions. Matter of fact, if anybody, IBF don't play. IBF stripped Gennady Golovkin for not defending against Deverenchenko. And I believe 100% that the IBF would have stripped Canelo Alvarez if he didn't fight that man, if he didn't fight their mandatory. The IBF is those cats seem to me to be the people that are most apt, who have the biggest tendency to defend, to actually execute their rules. That's what I see out of the IBF. you know? And IBF got a 10-day rehydration clause. God dog, man, they're tough on their champions, you know? Oh, J.A. Dixon said IBF don't mess around. Nah, man, the IBF is real. The WBC seems to me to be somebody that will bend over backwards for their fighters. That's how I see it. Like, if I want to phrase, like, the good thing about the WBC is and this might be really the bad thing. I guess the thing about the WBC and the way they apply their rules, it seems to me is that they bend over backwards for the fighters that are ranked by the WBC. They will do all kind of things to make sure that they don't punish a fighter, right? That's what I see from the WBC, because you can look at what the WBC does, but if you really look at it, it's almost always is not to like tear down one fighter, it's to assist another. So like the franchise champion move with Canelo Alvarez, it really stripped him of the title, but they allowed Canelo Alvarez to save face, and then they also elevated Jermall Charlo to the championship status. So that seemed to me to be them trying to do something for Canelo and to do something for Charlo. That's what I see. The fact that they allowed Dillian Whyte to even get to the mandatory status. Come on, man. That to me seems like they were bending over backwards to treat Dillian Whyte as fairly as they could, because he had already turned them down like 3 different times. That seems to me that those guys don't play really, really hardball. The IBF seem to be very, very strict about their rules. And if that means that they got to let a champion go that's a money earner, they got to let that champion go. They're very, very consistent with what they do. The WBO seems to be a fraud to me, because they seem to do whatever it is that the promoters ask them to do. And the WBA is better than the WBO, but the WBA will pull out some nonsense that is starkly unfair to fighters that they don't want to have hold their belts. What they did to Guillermo Rigondeaux is inexcusable. And what they did at the request to Luis Ortiz, at the request of Anthony Joshua, that's inexcusable. They were clearly punishing Guillermo Rigondeaux, and they punished Guillermo Rigondeaux, and they punished Luis Ortiz for things that weren't even related. In the case of Guillermo Rigondeaux, wasn't related to the weight class that he was fighting in. In the case of Luis Ortiz, wasn't even related to a WBO a fight that was sanctioned by the WBA, that the WBC let him go on. The WBC accepted his excuse, but the WBA, who wasn't even part of the testing process or the administration of the fight, at the request of Anthony Joshua, removed him as the mandatory, who had been, by the way, the number 1 guy in that division for well over 2 years. Well over 2 years. There shouldn't even have been a fight between Vladimir Klitschko and Anthony Joshua. It should have been Vladimir Klitschko. If anybody, it should have been Vladimir Klitschko and Luis Ortiz, or Anthony Joshua and Luis Ortiz. Yeah, they stripped Rigondeaux for losing a fight. Well, this is what they did. What's his face? Hey, much love in there, Northern Warrior, man. Much love in that super chat. What they did to Rigondeaux was they allowed Jim Lampley. They allowed Jim Lampley's opinion and insistence lead to them calling a no contest for a fight between Guillermo Rigondeaux and Luis Flores when Luis Flores took a dive because he got hit at the bell. It went ding, ding, ding. He got hit, and then because he had no chance to win that fight, he laid on his back and faked it. And Jim Lampley, I need to speak to the official. He needs to be disqualified. Where's the official? We're calling for the California State Athletic Commission to give me an explanation right now about why they're not disqualifying Guillermo Rigondeaux. Jim Lampley, you're an announcer. Jim Lampley was an announcer that demanded and got the fight called a no contest. And therefore, they ordered a rematch between Luis Flores and Guillermo Rigondeaux. Because Guillermo Rigondeaux decided to fight Vasily Lomachenko, right, for money. They said, well, if you lose to Lomachenko, then we're stripping you. They didn't do what the IBF did to Gennady Golovkin and say, all right, we'll allow you to fight this, but after you fight, your next fight, you must fight this mandatory that we asked you to fight. They didn't do that. They stripped him because he lost. And if he had won, they would have gave him 2 days, 2 days to decide what belt they were going to keep or they were going to strip him. Unlike what the WBC did for Mikey Garcia, which was give this dude all kind of time to decide whether or not he was going to defend his 135-pound WBC title. Man, so anyway, TC to Crisis, much love in that super chat. So anyway, drink more water, you hear. I know how you going to defend Bud, dog? It's on Bud's fault, man. Oh, that's funny. Big Mama, your arm. What's going on, heavy hitter? So anyway, man, that's what that is, man. BoxRec, Danny Ramon as super. Yeah, BoxRec is behind. Danny Remain, whoever the WBA 122-pound champion is, dog, that's Guillermo Rigondeaux. In my opinion, Guillermo Rigondeaux is still a top 122-pound fighter till somebody beats him. Period. The WBO just a worse version of the WBA. That might be the case. I might agree with that. But the WBO is the worst of all of them. And I've been saying that for a long time. Look what they're trying to do with Alexander Usyk and Andy Ruiz. Like, why would you order a mandatory? Why would you make a mandatory in the middle of a rematch when you're one fight away from having a unified champion? They're trying to force their guy. They're trying to force their guy into their belt. And that's what the WBO does. The WBO wants their particular fighter to be a champion of that. It's like they negotiate for their own fighters. They want a Bob Arum fighter to hold the belt, or Matchroom, or in this case, they're going to work with Eddie Hearn to name the mandatory. What about a WBA? Well, I think he already had the WBA mandatory, didn't he? The WBA mandatory. I don't think he did the IBF mandatory, but anyway, it is what it is. Ruiz can beat Usyk. He ain't fighting Usyk. Now, Roger. If Andy Ruiz wins that rematch against Tyson Fury, he's not fighting Usyk. Usyk is just going to get that belt, and that way Bob Arum and Al Haymon and Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn can play around and call somebody a heavyweight champion, because they're going to strip Andy Ruiz if he fights Deontay Wilder. If he fights anybody other than Ruiz, they'll strip him. They might strip him regardless. I don't see a Usyk Ruiz fight happening. Why would? Because according to the Top Rank, why would he do that? Why would Andy Ruiz keep that raggedy ass belt instead of unifying with Deontay Wilder? Why would if Andy Ruiz beats Anthony Joshua for a second time, why in the world would he go to an Usyk fight instead of going to a Deontay Wilder fight? You know he's not going to choose that, because the money's in the Deontay Wilder fight. There's no way he's fighting Usyk. So they put Usyk up there so they can strip him. You know? Usyk don't even deserve a shot at the title. He ain't even had a heavyweight fight yet. That's another thing that the WBO does. That's another thing that the WBO does. They mandate fights for people for championships that have never fought in the division before. Dog, that is ridiculous. And you can say, oh, it's in their rules. Yeah, there's a lot of shit in a lot of people's rules. Just because you wrote it down don't make it right. Okay? You have guys that are fighting in that weight division who have 10, 11, 12 wins in the weight division, But you have a guy that wins a belt in a lower weight division, and they get put to the front of the line? For what? He's never fought a heavyweight fight. He shouldn't. I don't even understand how these guys be ranking people in weight divisions they've never fought before. And they all do that. They'll have, Gervonta Davis at a point was ranked at 135 pounds, and he ain't never fought in the weight division. What sense does that make? What sense does that make? That's like somebody in college basketball getting votes for the MVP, and he ain't never played a game in the league. I said WBO ranked the dead man twice. Come on, man. The way that they do it, though, is through them secondary belts. So, because they have these, like, the international belt holder will be ranked number 1 by the WBO. So you fight two guys that ain't near the top 15 in the world, get together and fight in Taiwan for a belt, and all of a sudden they become the number 1 ranked fighter? What sense does that make? Anyway, SEC always ranks preseason. So what? That's apples and oranges. They rank preseason for teams that played the last year in the NCAA. Okay? What are you talking about? They can pre-rank them. So what? That allows you to, whatever they use that for. It's a tournament. They all have to play each other. That's apples and oranges, man. And they're not ranking high school teams, are they? When was the last time the NCAA in basketball ever ranked a high school team? A team that has never played in the NCAA before. Yeah, exactly. They're all going to play anyway. Haymon Arum should make the fight for the good of boxing. Enough money there. But will they? Bob Arum don't care about no good of boxing. Bob Arum cares about the good of Top Rank, which is what his job is. Iceberg Nerd. They get away with that Usyk stuff because when Crawford fought for the WBO, his first fight at 147, no one complained. I complained. I absolutely positively complained, Iceberg Nerd. I said it was wrong, and it was a setup. They set Jeff Horn up because Jeff Horn did not re-up with Bob Arum. And as soon as Jeff Horn decided he was not going to re-up, because Bob Arum had a 2-fight option on him, I said that was wrong. Terrence Crawford didn't deserve that shot. It didn't deserve a shot at Jeff Horn as a mandatory. They made him the mandatory before the guy had ever even fought. Before he ever defended his title, they made him a mandatory. Before he had ever had a voluntary, they made Terrence Crawford the mandatory. And anybody with 2 cents knew Terrence Crawford was going to beat him. That's what they're doing, man. No way. I complained about it. Yeah, he won. They knew he was going to win. I could give you a bunch of those guys who would beat Jeff Horn. Regis Prograis would beat Jeff Horn. I'm saying the guys, what he said was nobody complained. I complained. I complained about it. I thought it was wrong. I thought it was a setup because Jeff Horn only got 1 voluntary fight, and then the last fight of his top rank contract just so happened to be a mandatory title defense against another top-ranked fighter for his belt. Ain't no way if he would have fought Manny Pacquiao in that rematch that they would have mandated the next fight be with Terrence Crawford. If Jeff Horn had re-signed with Top Rank, they would not, in my belief, they would not have made Terrence Crawford the mandatory for the WBO. They would have Terrence Crawford take a fight against somebody else. And the WBO would allow Bob Arum to milk that. That's how I saw it. But no, don't say nobody complained about it, because people did complain about it. It was obvious. I complained about them robbing Manny. Hey man, Manny lost that fight, man. Nah. WBC will also rank a champion coming from a lower division as contenders in a high division. Steve, that's a different. See, my man, are you like an Eddie Hearn guy or something? So what? I didn't say they couldn't rank the guy. They made him the mandatory. What are you doing, man? What are you bait and switching the argument? I said that the guy was made the mandatory challenger for the belt before he ever fought. And your response to that was that the WBC ranked somebody from a lower weight class when they went in. What's going on, Felix Nunes? Come on, man. Don't do Eddie Hearn moves over here, man. People ain't stupid, man. Okay? Don't do no Eddie Hearn. Oh, let me make an argument. Let me respond to an argument that you didn't make. Next thing you're going to do to deflect questions, you're going to start asking me the questions. You know, man, you see man, Fred from Barbershop Conversation called him out on deflecting. That dude imploded. Yeah, I know he held the WBO at 140. Who cares? So what? So what? So let me ask you a question. Alexander Usyk held the WBC belt at cruiserweight. Do you think he deserved to be the mandatory for Deontay Wilder right off the cuff? He never fought in the weight division before. Rank him, but give him a shot at the title. And now, that's something else. If somebody had volunteered to fight him, that would be reasonable. Okay, it's voluntary title defense for Andy Ruiz as the WBO champion. He decides he wants to fight Alexander Usyk. But when you make him the mandatory, you put him ahead of every other person that's been ranked in that division. Come on, man. Come on. Who's WBC champion? 140-pound champion. Jose Ramirez. So you think Jose Ramirez, the WBC Jose Ramirez, should be the mandatory right out the gate for Sean Porter? You think Jose Ramirez deserves to be the mandatory for Sean Porter over Danny Garcia or over Keith Thurman or over Danis Ugas or over Sheik Kell Brook because he's holding the WBC belt at 140? Come on, man. You wouldn't do that. And it only happens in the WBO. A mandatory, cool. If they want to take that fight on as a mandatory, that's a different subject. If Deontay Wilder was like, I have a voluntary fight coming up, a voluntary defense coming up. Alexander Usyk just moved to heavyweight. I want to fight Alexander Usyk next because he's the WBC champion at 100 at cruiserweight. Okay, you can make an argument, but come on, man, you're gonna make him fight him? Come on, man. Ugas got that work though. They sleeping on him since that Porter fight. I'm dead sleep on him. I don't think Ugas that good, man. I'm on Ugas. Sean Snow, fresh out the barbershop, salute for not a dime. What's going on there, Sean Snowden in the building? You know what? They only made Crawford and Usyk mandatory because they were undisputed, not just because they held the WBO title. Excuse me. No, that's not true. That is a very happy coincidence. Actually, when they made the mandatory, Alexander Usyk wasn't undisputed. He had already dropped the WBC. He wasn't undisputed at the time. He had already relinquished the WBC belt. Nope. And neither was Terrence Crawford, because Terrence Crawford had already vacated the IBF belt. He vacated the IBF belt 1 week after he won it. Not true. Neither one of them were undisputed at the time that they ordered that. Next. And the rule for the WBO that allows them to do that is not based on them being undisputed. It's because they were a champion in a weight class below. But I will look up at that. Oh yeah, man. I know about Molina in that. I didn't see the video, but that was good. Bud was undisputed for exactly 11 days. Neither Alexander Usyk nor Terrence Crawford were undisputed champions when they ordered that fight. And I'm going to actually do something real quick here. Let me see something. You know y'all getting for non-research today because I don't want to be incorrect. Da. Okay. Nah, man, let's go through this. Designation of a mandatory challenger. The mandatory challenger may be selected and determined by the World Championship Committee according to the current list of best qualified fighters. The purpose of designating the manager challenger, which responds to the month, blah blah blah. When a champion must make mandatory defense, the mandatory challenger shall be the highest classified available boxer who, in the judgment of the World Congress, best satisfies this criteria. Has a record acceptable, who, because of an accomplishment or achievement, is recognized as a class boxer. That's one. That doesn't apply. That could apply to Usyk. Could apply to anybody that they think is good. Complies with the WBO and criteria for rank, blah, blah, blah. That's not it. In the event that the champion has a contract with a major television network, do you hear this rule? That they may designate a mandatory challenger in the event that a champion has a contract with a major television network, such as HBO, Showtime, Sky, or similar broadcast, and is acceptable challenger to the Champions Network. What a BS rule. Because he got a TV contract. That's why they can mandate it, because he's got a TV contract. Or that the WBO just thinks that he deserves it, or he has an acceptable ranking, or he's acceptable to the World Boxing Committee, whatever. Let's go to another one. Let's see. A classified may request recognition as a mandatory challenger in writing in the form which is substantially or if they request it. The committee may designate a mandatory challenger based on the above criteria. In either event, they must agree to be subject to the rules, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The world may deny a request to be recognized on the basis if the champion has a unification bout, whatever. A fighter is classified higher than the mandatory challenger and is not designated as a challenger. Okay, the winner of an elimination bout shall be designated the mandatory. That's not it. Designation of a mandatory challenger creates an obligation on behalf of the champion to defend against the mandatory challenger as a condition of the retention of the title. The obligation may be subject to modification or extension. The designation of mandatory challenger does not create the rights of the challenger. The champion has signed F, a champion has signed a contract for a defense of his championship, even against a mandatory challenge or proves that matter shall not in itself constitute. Dog, it ain't even got anything to do with that, dude. It has nothing to do with it. All right, so I'm going to go read these rules a little bit in more detail, but no, it has nothing to do with whether the guy was a unified champion or not. More than likely, it has something to do with the fact that he had a TV contract. What kind of crap is that? Did you hear that rule? This is what allows you to be a mandatory challenger in the WBO. Section 6, designation of a mandatory challenger. When a champion must make a mandatory defense, the challenger shall be the highest classified available boxer who, in the judgment of the World Championship Committee, best satisfies the following criteria. In the event that the champion has a contract with a major television network and is acceptable to the champion's television network. Wow. Those are the three criteria. He has a record acceptable to their committee and who, because of accomplishment or achievement, is recognized by them as a class boxer and complies with the WBO and Association of Boxing Commission, and in the event that the champion has a contract with a major TV network and is acceptable to the champion's television network. Wow. So, in order to be ranked by the WBC, you have to have a major championship. You have to have a TV contract to be ranked by the WBO. I have to read that again to make sure that I was right because I'm skimming it. The WBO is BS. So if a guy does not have a major television network contract, he cannot be a mandatory for the belt. So let's take, for example, Deontay Wilder. Since Deontay Wilder does not have a contract with a major network, he can't be the mandatory? What? What does that have to do with whether or not you're a good fighter or not? What does that have to do with it? What does that have to do with it? That is a fraud. That is a fraud. That means, let me interpret that for you. In order to be a mandatory for the WBO, you have to be signed with a major promoter. You have to be signed with a major promoter. No, I'm not trying too hard to be right. I'm dead right. I just read the rules. It means big fights. What does that have to do with it? But anyway, that wasn't you that said that. I'm trying too hard to be right. Mr. Bennett, I am reading you the rules. Designation of a mandatory challenger. The mandatory challenger may be selected and determined by the World Championship Committee according to the current list of best classified boxers promulgated, which means created by, the WBO Classification Committee. The World Championship Committee shall, for good cause, designate the date on which the determination of a mandatory challenger shall be determined. They're going to say when it happens. For the purpose of designating a mandatory challenger, the current list of classifications is that which corresponds to the month for which the designation of the mandatory challenger is made, and the world champion is obligated to defend his title against the mandatory challenger, or any other date in which the World Championship Committee may determine for just cause. Okay, that all says that the WBO World Championship Committee will say who and when a champion shall defend their title. That's what it says. I didn't make that up. I'm reading it off their regulations. B, Section 6, designation of a mandatory challenger. B, when the champion must make a mandatory defense, the challenger shall means will be, the highest classified available boxer who, in the judgment of the World Championship Committee best satisfies the following criteria. And they're given 3 criterias. One is that he has a record, an acceptable record for the World Championship Committee, which means the WBO's committee, and who, because of accomplishment or of achievement, is recognized by the World Championship Committee as a class boxer. So, Section 1, a mandatory challenger shall be the guy that best satisfies having the best record and being a qualified boxer, right? So he has to be a good boxer. That's 1. 2, he complies with the WBO and Association of Boxing Commission's criteria for ratings of professional boxing. So the committee has to think he's a good fighter. The WBO and the Association of Boxing criteria, he has to be ranked by professional boxers for professional boxers, right? So they think that he has to be a good fighter and he has to be ranked. Those are 2 criteria in their rules. I'm not trying hard to make that up. It's what it says. And then 3, it says, in the event that the champion has a contract with a major television network and is an acceptable challenger to the champion's television network, which means if they have a TV contract, they got to be acceptable to a TV network. So whether or not this guy has a contract with them, that comes into consideration about whether or not they should be named the mandatory challenger. Because if you don't have a TV network, then Section 3 won't even apply. And you're comparing people. So you can say, well, what if I have number 1, I have number 2, but I don't have number 3? Their committee can take into consideration whether or not you're acceptable to the television network. If they didn't think the guy having a television contract was important, they wouldn't even enter it into there. But guess who doesn't have that criteria in their rules? The WBC. I don't recall them having anything in there where they take into consideration whether a television network thinks it's acceptable or not. In the event the champion has a contract, right? If the champion has a television contract, the network can say no to it. And then they can't be the mandatory because the TV network says no. Who is responsible for dealing with the TV network and telling the WBO whether it's acceptable or not? The promoter. But yeah, I'm trying hard. I tried so hard that I made them put that in the rules. But like I said, it's my first reading of the rules because I don't waste my time reading the WBO rules because the WBO is crooked as the letter Z. Anyway, but remember why I said that though? I brought that up to tell you I didn't read anything in there that said because he's a unified champion in the lower weight division. I didn't see it. If anybody can see where it says that in these regulations, please let me know. Because like I said, usually when you read things like that, you do need to read them a couple times to make sure that you really get the meaning of it. And that was the first time I read through it. But I didn't see that. Undisputed one has a record. Nah, dog, don't cheat. Don't cheat. You said because he's undisputed, so can somebody that's unified. That same definition, dog, don't debate with me, drink more water. Because you're going to lose this badly. What you say is, dog, I don't know why you like to lose these arguments with me, but you're going to lose it. Undisputed one has a record acceptable to the WBO Championship Committee and who, because of accomplishment and achievement, is recognized by the World Championship Committee as a class boxer. That also would apply to somebody that isn't undisputed, right? Manny Pacquiao isn't undisputed. Does he have a record acceptable to the World Boxing Committee? Who knows? Because we would have to have them look at it. Okay, so I don't know whether or not an undisputed fighter has a record acceptable to them or not. You're making the assumption that they say you're making an assumption. It seems to be a valid assumption, but it may not be. It's still an assumption that because you're undisputed, that means that that record is acceptable to their committee. How do you know? You'd have to ask their committee. However, let's also assume that somebody wasn't unified, because Terrence Crawford wasn't unified. He had 3 of the belts, not 4. He had already dropped the IBF. The same definition can fit to somebody that doesn't even have a championship record. Man, does Floyd Mayweather Jr. has been, Errol Spence Jr., do you think he has a record acceptable to the World Championship Committee? 23-0, has defended the IBF champion 3. I think that's fair to think that that might be acceptable to their committee. And who, because of accomplishments and achievements, he won a major championship belt. He's defended it 3 times. That could fit in there and is recognized by the championship committee. That could apply to Errol Spence Jr. just as much as it could apply to an undisputed champion. That's not because it's undisputed. It's because of everything you read down here. But what you said was it was because he was undisputed. And I showed you, number 1, that's not the criteria. And number 2, drink more water. He wasn't undisputed when they made the mandatory decision. He wasn't undisputed. Let's go to the record books on this, though, because I don't know why you do this, drink more water. You try to defend Terrence Crawford when it ain't even necessary to defend him. When did Terrence Crawford vacate the belt? Terrence Crawford vacates IBF. On August 30th, 2017, Terrence Crawford vacated the IBF belt. That's August 30th. Terrence Crawford named mandatory. I just want to make sure I'm right about this. October. So let me see, August. So on August 30th, he gave it up. Now let's see what comes after. Where does October 26th? So August, September, October. He was not the unified champion for 2 months when he was named the mandatory. Come on, man, don't do that. He wasn't the mandatory, and he wasn't undisputed, and neither was Alexander Usyk when they made the decision. Section 14 tells you why Crawford was a mandatory. Really? Let's go to. I enjoy doing this. Where's the WBO rules? Control V. Section 14. I would be loving it. Hey, let me know. Let me go to Section 14. Section 14. Okay, super champions. Extensive champions. The championship may extend to the super champions mandatory title defense for good cause shown 1 or more times beyond the time provided by the WBO. Contests for giving super champion opportunity or qualifies to unified titles, 1 or more sanctioned bodies either. Yeah, but that's not undisputed. Okay, that's not undisputed. That doesn't say that you have to be undisputed. They said it's because he's a super champion. If the prospect super champion has been a WBC champion in 1 or more weight divisions, or if the prospective super champ has held more than 1 championship in 1 of the 4 major sanctioning bodies, if the prospective super champ is unified champions of 1 or more 4 world sanctioned bodies. Has unified at one point in time. Okay. So there it is. It's not down. It's because he's a super champion. Or it could be any of the 3 because he has unified them. You licked my nuts? No, I said that it doesn't even matter. So what? You dog. So what? Yeah, okay. He got it because he was a super champ. But guess what else? That also means let's see how many other people that they could do that for. He also, if a prospective super champ is held more than one championship of the 4 major sanctioning bodies. So that also means that they can make Vasily Lomachenko the mandatory for the WBO and Ray Beltran. That's what he said, luck my nuts, something like that. According to those rules, drink more water. They could make them. They could make the mandatory. They could have made Vasily Lomachenko the automatic mandatory for what's his face? For Ray Beltran, right? Because he's the WBO. They could have done that there. They could also, I think they could also do that for many other reasons. Several other fighters that have held WBO belts in multiple weight divisions. Didn't Terry Flanagan also hold? Didn't he hold the WBO belt in 135 pounds and move to 140? Why didn't they make Terry Flanagan the mandatory challenger for the WBO at 140 pounds? There's all kinds of scenarios that fall underneath that super champ rule. And how do you know that the reason that you know damn well why they did it? They did it because Top Rank wanted them to. And just because they say that they did it doesn't mean they're going to approve it. Because what could they do? Another rule in there says that they could say no if they want to unify with somebody else. We'll see. If Jeff Horn wanted to unify with somebody else, do you think that the WBO was not going to do that? Dude, I don't care what the justification for the WBO's rules are. The WBO's execution of their rules, they can do whatever they want to do. Even his coach said, yeah, we moved up when he left. I'm not sure what that means. According to those rules, the WBO can put anybody in that mandatory position that they want to put in the position to do it. Period. That's it. The committee says that you have a good enough record, we can make you the mandatory. They've got like 5 or 6 different reasons why they can make him the mandatory. And I never said that they couldn't make him the mandatory. All I said was that you're saying it's because he was the undisputed champion. And I'm saying there's nothing in there says that they have to do it because of that, or that they have to do it for any of those reasons. They did it though. And I'm saying the reason they did is because they wanted to do it. And I find it mighty miraculous that they always want to do it in situations where Top Rank might lose a belt. Let's see what they have in common. No, drink more water. Let's look to see what they have in common. What does the move with Terrence Crawford have in common with what happened with Alexander Usyk? What do they have in common? Somebody from the PBC or somebody losing, one of their champions losing. First of all, Manny Pacquiao was no longer the WBO champion, and Jeff Horn was not going to sign with Top Rank. They made Terrence Crawford from a lower weight division the mandatory. In this scenario, Anthony Joshua lost his belt, and Andy Ruiz got his belt, and then they slip in a mandatory. That prevented Jeff Horn from fighting anybody other than one of their current champions. And in this situation, you have somebody that is prevented from fighting anybody but one of their current champions. But yet you act like that's not part of it. Drink more water. In both scenarios, the WBO is preventing a champion from fighting somebody that was not already WBO champion. Terrence Crawford was the WBO champion. Alexander Usyk was the WBO champion. And they chose those instances when somebody who wasn't a WBO champion got hold of the belt to make an existing champion fight them. But you want to act like this is some impartial judgment on the part of the WBO? Dude, be honest. Be honest. You think that that's an impartial judgment? Drink more water. It's a coincidence. It's a coincidence. Stop. You are a Terrence Crawford fan that will make Terrence Crawford look bad because you will defend anything related to him. Even when it's not even him, you got to defend. Why are you defending the WBO? You know perfectly damn well they are crooked as the letter Z, but you're trying to go out of your way to defend the WBO and Bob Arum? Come on, man. Come on. That's when you try to hang on. That's why you try to hang on to an argument, and you're going to find a way for Terrence Crawford to look good. Stop. Stop. Under those rules, the WBO can make their fighter fight anybody at any time. Under the rules that you listed, the WBO can make any one of their champions fight anybody at any time. They could, under those same rules, have Vasyl Lomachenko at 135 pounds fight Terrence Crawford and mandate it under those rules because he's a super champion, right? Isn't he a super champion? He's unified more than one major championship belt. And Vasyl Lomachenko has also been a multiple division WBO champion. Lomachenko is a super champion. They could order a mandatory fight for Terrence Crawford and Lomachenko under those rules. Is Monster a WBO champion? They can order any top-ranked fighter that has a WBO belt to fight any other top-ranked champion that has a WBO belt anywhere in the sport of boxing. They can order Terrence Crawford under those rules to be a mandatory challenger for Andy Ruiz. Can he? Can't they? Dude, you didn't, dog. Drink more water. You can keep your fucking $5. All you're doing is making an excuse for crookedness in the WBO. That's all you're doing. That's all you're doing. I never said that the WBO did not mandate the fight. Let me be clear with the issue. And I'm being direct with you. I know that the WBO did not violate any rules by mandating it. What you said was it was because he was the undisputed champion. You don't know that. But I don't even care. Because they could have ordered another 15, 20 different reasons. That's not a victory. That's me telling you that the WBO has the right to name a mandatory challenger. What I'm telling you is that they did it because Bob Arum and the WBO, it's whatever Bob orders. And you're trying to claim that the WBO that Bob Arum does not have undue influence over the WBO, and that's bullshit. Drink more water. It's just flat out bullshit. You cannot prove to me or convince any reasonable person that Bob Arum had nothing to do with Bob Arum, with Terrence Crawford being named the mandatory challenger for Bob Arum, for Jeff Horn. Bud has fought more PBC fighters than Errol. Bullshit. Domo Heezy. How do you figure that? How do you figure that? You just making stuff up now? Mikey Garcia, and plus, what does that have to do with anything? Look, man, you can keep your $5, drink more water. You are trying to defend corruption in the WBO. That is the reason why you're trying to defend Alexander Usyk being the mandatory challenger to Andy Ruiz without ever having fought at heavyweight in prevention of a unification fight with Deontay Wilder. All so you can justify Terrence Crawford getting a fight with Jeff Horn? See, this is why I'm telling you, you guys make arguments that wind up hurting yourself down the road. So you think it's going to be okay for that to happen to Terrence Crawford, right? So Terrence Crawford leaves Bob Arum. He's the WBO champion. He wants to leave Bob Arum and sign with the PBC. But the WBO comes in and mandates a fight between him and somebody else, or they're going to strip Terrence Crawford if he doesn't take the fight that Bob Arum told him to take based on these same rules. You going to support that? No, because it's Terrence Crawford. Because it's Terrence Crawford. Come on, man. We've been watching boxing for a very long time, drink more water. Don't over-defend. I told you I don't care about. You do care about the WBO. You do care about the WBO because you're legitimizing what the WBO did to Jeff Horn. You're thinking that that's fair, what he did to Jeff Horn. You can't defend Terrence Crawford in a bubble. You can't defend Terrence Crawford in a bubble. You can't say, oh, it's okay because it was Terrence Crawford. Oh, when they screw over Jeff Horn because it's Terrence Crawford, that's fine. But, oh, if they do it to somebody else that's not Terrence Crawford, oh, that's corruption. How does that work? You cannot defend Terrence Crawford in a bubble. Just like I told people before, and I've talked to people saying, oh, it's Deontay, it's Errol Spence Jr.'s job. It's Errol Spence Jr.'s job to call out Terrence Crawford. Why? Terrence Crawford ain't calling Errol Spence at the time. Oh, well, that's because Terrence Crawford just doesn't call out it. He doesn't call out people. And since Errol Spence doesn't call out people, Terrence Crawford doesn't call out people, then it's Terrence Crawford, it's Errol Spence Jr.'s responsibility to call him out. What? That seems like these stupid arguments people make about voting for somebody. Oh, well, if you don't vote for my guy, if you don't vote for me, you're really voting for the other guy. No, I'm not. I'm not voting for you, and I'm not voting for him. No, you overdoing it, man. Usyk and Bud are only undisputed, so it does not apply to anyone else. You just saw in the argument there's 15 other reasons why they can do that without it being undisputed. Dude, Rule 14, ain't that what your boy backed you up with? If a boxer has successfully defended his title cumulatively a minimum of 10 times, or in the event of less than 10 times, has defenses of his title against opponents of high recognition and high skills, he has substantially met the other criteria for us therein. The boxing's amateur history will be considered. Additionally, factors will be considered in determining a super champion. If prospective super champions has been a WBO champion in one and more weight divisions. That's a reason why he can be the super champ. If he has been a WBO champion in more than one weight division. That is a reason to make somebody a super champ. Guess what? Manny Pacquiao's been a WBO champion in more than one division. He can be a super champ. Vasily Lomachenko has been a champion in more than one division. He can be a super champ. Terrence Crawford has been the WBO champion in more than one division. He can be the super champ. Now Alexander Usyk has not been, but he has held one major champion in the 4-weight division. Hold on. If the prospective champion has held more than one championship of the 4 major sanctioning bodies, that applies to Keith Thurman. If prospective super champ has held more than one championship of 4 major championship sanctioning bodies, if the prospective super champ has unified the championship of more than one of the 4 sanctioning bodies. Actually, I'm waiting to see where they actually say that it has to be an undisputed champion. I don't think that did it say undisputed champion? The quality of I know I'm going over, but this is a good, and much respect to Drink More Water. This is what it'll take to be a super champ. As a WBO champion, the boxer has successfully defended his title cumulatively more than 10 times. That's 1. In the event that it is less than 10 successful defenses, his or her title against high opponents of high recognition and skills has substantially met the other standards set forth therein. And also the amateur's history can be considered. And the quality of prospective super champion's record, including quality of his opponents and their records, will be considered. Additionally, the following factors will be considered in determining super champion's designation. If the prospective champion has been the WBO champion in more than one weight division, if the prospective super champion has held more than one championship of the 4 major world sanctioning organizations, or if the prospective super champion has unified the championships of more than one of the 4 world sanctioning bodies. The current champion status is not required to qualify. Current championship status is not required to qualify or continue as a super champion. The championship committee may recommend super champion status for a boxer to the executive committee if a boxer has substantially complied with the conditions set forth therein. The super champion status will be determined by a vote. Privileges afforded to super champions. Those fighters recommended by the championship committee and approved by the executive shall qualify. Extension of mandatory title defense. Okay, I'm sorry. You know what? I stand corrected. You don't have to be the unified champion, dude. You don't have to be the undisputed champion. They never mention undisputed champion. They mention unified champion. It's not because he was undisputed. They never mentioned undisputed. They said unified. Drink more water. It's not because he was undisputed. It's because he was a super champion. It could be because he's a super champion, but it doesn't have but nowhere on there does it say that a criteria is to be a undisputed champion. It said 1 or more. Unify 1 or more. 1 or more means 1, 2, 3, or 4. Undisputed is technically unified, but unified is not undisputed. Unified is not undisputed. And you don't even have to be a champion for it to be named. As long as you've ever done that in your career ever, they can name that. That's a lot of reasons why they can do that, dude. All right. That's why I say you got to read. I have to read rules 5 and 6 times through to make sure I get it. But no, Drink More Water, you were wrong. Being undisputed is not in and of itself even listed there. You can do it because you have a great record. You had 10 successful title defenses, which Terrence Crawford did not have. It could be that you were a champion for the WBO in 1 or more weight divisions, which Terrence Crawford fits, or that you've unified 1 or more of the major champion. If you've unified 1 or more championship belts, which Alexander Usyk and Terrence Crawford have led to. Also, that means that they could name Keith Thurman one, because Keith Thurman has unified. He fits the criteria. But I guess at a certain point in time, he had to be the WBO champion. He just doesn't have to be the WBO champion currently. But all of that stuff hinges on the committee accepting it. Once you say, I would like to be a super champion, they can say yes or no. And they evaluate the criteria. But I'm glad we walked through that because now I know the WBO rules. Yes, he can be a super champion. But the committee has to approve it. And you know what committee is? The committee does whatever Bob orders. They could just turn him down. Fanon, with all the due respect, we all know why Bud got that shot. Of course. Yeah, we all know. But Drink More Water out here, nah, Drink More Water ain't trolling. Me and Drink More Water has been going at it for a while. Has a record acceptable to the boxing committee and who, because of achievement accomplishment, is the world. Yeah, you keep repeating the same thing, dog. Yeah, you keep repeating the same thing. But no, man, debate, that's all. Yes, this is a good conversation. Man, Drink More Water's my dude. Me and Drink More Water been going through this multiple times, man. It ain't no worry. I like Bud. I just don't want to defend. I'm just not going to defend Bud at all costs. Like, what's the next thing? If Bud, you know what it's like? That's like when cats, what Josie said to you, what did Fahim say? For now, with all due respect, we all know why Bud got that title shot. Yeah. Because Bob wanted him to have it. That's why. He deserves it, though. I mean, it ain't like he don't deserve, like he's not good enough to win a WBO title. He is. All I'm saying is this. Don't be like, oh, Fahim Satura said, Bud fans turn me off of Bud. Dog, it will. Dude, don't be like, that's all I need to drop as a defense. No, that's not a defense, dude. We all know it's in the rules. Drink More Water, it's in the rules that he can do it. You keep citing the rules whenever nobody's questioning whether or not it's in their rule book that he can do it. Why do you keep agreeing with people as a means to debate with them? I know it's in their rules. I just listed 4 reasons that Bud can get it, that the WBO would allow to do it. But what I'm saying is use your common sense and know and understand that the reason why they did it is because Bob Arum wanted to keep his belt. You keep agreeing with people as if you're making your argument as if somebody says what you're saying ain't right. We know that they can do it. There's 15 different ways they could do it. Why they did it is the question. That's like the British. You know who you sound like? You sound like Eddie Hearn. You making that Eddie Hearn argument. Dillian Whyte tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. So what? He was cleared to fight. I didn't do anything wrong. He was cleared to fight. The BBOC rules, they're the one that rules on that. If the BBBOC says it's okay, then I haven't done anything wrong because the BBOC said it was okay to let Dillian Whyte fight under the influence of performance-enhancing drugs. That's literally what you're doing. You're pointing to the rules. Yeah, we know. That's not speculation. That's a fact. It's literally a fact. That's what Dillian Whyte said. That's what he said. I'm not speculating. That is literally what the position of Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn said that the fight was okay to continue. It was a fight that was held between Oscar Rivas and it's the same argument. I'm saying this. Dillian Whyte, here's my scenario. Yes, it is technically in the rules that Terrence Crawford was allowed to get a fight become the mandatory challenger. That is in the WBO rules. But I don't agree with the rules because he never fought at welterweight before. And the reason that they did it was for some other reason, which was to keep Bob Arum, to keep his belt in house. They used the rule to do something that I believe was wrong. And you're pointing to the rules and saying there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the rules, right? Same thing with Alexander Usyk getting a mandatory shot at Andy Ruiz, which might keep a fight from happening with Deontay Wilder for unification. You're saying it's in the rules. So there's nothing wrong with it. Everything is right in the world because you can point to where it's in the rules. I'm saying I know it's in the rules. I read to you not just the reason that you gave for it to be in the rules, but for 4 other rules. In the scenario with Eddie Hearn, Eddie Hearn said I didn't do anything wrong. I put on a fight because it was in the rules that I could. Isn't it? The British Boxing Board of Controls is the body that is responsible for sanctioning a fight. If the BBOC says it's okay for a fight to continue, then Eddie Hearn followed the rules. That's what Eddie Hearn is saying, drink more water. He's saying that he followed the rules. Yes, you are. That's why you're pointing to the rules. Drink more water. You're pointing to the rules. And you're saying that WBO and Top Rank followed the rules. And you pointed to a rule. That's exactly what you're doing. And Eddie Hearn is saying that he followed the rule, and he's pointing to the BBOC's rules. And he's saying he didn't do anything wrong. That's the exact same thing. Eddie Hearn, and let me make it simple for you. Eddie Hearn, I didn't do anything wrong. I followed the rules. Drink more water. The WBO didn't do anything wrong. They followed their rules. That's what you're saying. Terrence Crawford being the mandatory is within the rules. So therefore, there's nothing wrong with it. That's what you're saying. Eddie Hearn said, me allowing Oscar Rivas, Dillian Whyte to go into the ring and fight Oscar Rivas was within the rules. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's the same argument, man. It's the same general thing you're trying to accomplish. There's something foul that happened, and you're saying it's okay because there's a rule that allows it. Eddie Hearn is saying something foul happened, but it's okay because there was a rule that allowed it. That's like saying, in a very gross example, there was nothing. No, those guys weren't involved in kidnapping. The people that had slaves weren't involved in kidnapping. They didn't kidnap, torture, or rape because it was in the rules. It wasn't against the law. It wasn't against the law. There was nothing wrong with it because it was in the rules. What do you mean that these people were bad people? You see the rule. The rules written down. They adhered by the rules. But drink more water. What happens when crooks write the rules? What happens when a crook writes the rules? It's unethical. There are laws that are unethical. It's unethical to say, oh, did people do anything wrong when there are poor people in Ferguson, in certain cities, and they disproportionately give parking tickets where they charge $100 to a parking ticket, knowing dang well that these people don't have the money to pay for it, but they gave the same $100 parking ticket to people on the other side of town who can easily afford it? But they say, we're not being disproportionate. We're applying the rules even-handedly. But you know that there's going to be you know what the effect of that rule is going to be. There's something called ethics. And there are unethical rules. There are unethical laws. And all of that stuff written by the WBC and the WBA and the WBC and the IBF all have words that say whatever we believe is the right thing to do. All those rules go out the window when you can say, as long as we believe that this is a criteria that we'll use. But you have to ask us, we will judge it based on these loose criteria, and then we'll come up with our justification. You think they're going to, at any point in time, they're put in there, as long as, the people that pay the bills say it's okay? How about this? Who actually gets put on those committees? Who do you think are nominating people to sit on these committees that the WBO mentions in those rules? You think Al Haymon is sitting on that board? Who is it that is sitting on the board? Who appointed them? Who nominated them? Who negotiates with them? Who has them on their phone? Come on, man. Same thing for the BBOC. People, oh man, shout out to Black Fight Fan TV, who said that there's a lot of people that think that the BBOC is a governmental organization. I want to be clear what I said about it, just so it doesn't, so I'm very clear. I believe it's a political organization. And you have political organizations that are not government organizations. Political organizations are anywhere where people get nominated to boards. People that don't get paid get nominated to boards, right? Who then vote on subject matters, right? And you have a bunch of people nominating people to committees to represent different issues. That is an organization that is political in nature, not government politics. Boxing politics is what happens between two people. But drink more water, man. Please stop doing that, because I really do respect you. But you're doing the same thing that Eddie Hearn is doing. But I can't criticize Eddie Hearn for saying what he did and then let your argument fly. Because it's literally the same. It's the same thing. Kurt, what is this? Alpha Joseph. I got to get out of here, man. No, Alfie Joseph. Somebody probably just don't like you. And we'll throw you out for that too. What do you think this is, dog? You know my rules? That's why. Because of my rules. Semantics. What are you talking about? Excuse me. Ortiz was allowed to fight Deontay Wilder twice? No, he wasn't. He's only fought him once. And that fight that he had was canceled. Dummy. Maybe you're getting thrown out because you're saying stuff that's not true. Luis Ortiz, when he tested positive, that fight was canceled. And then Deontay Wilder fought Bermane Stiverne. And then another fight was made where he had to be tested and he passed his tests. That's the exact same thing that happened to Alexander Povetkin, but Alexander Povetkin had popped dirty twice. Then he was allowed to fight for a championship against Anthony Joshua when he passed the tests. That's the same scenario. And Luis Ortiz was not allowed to fight Deontay Wilder when he popped dirty. Alexander Povetkin was not allowed to fight Deontay Wilder when he popped dirty. Later on, there was another fight that was made for Deontay Wilder and Luis Ortiz, and he passed his tests. Later on, there was another fight for Alexander Povetkin to get a championship shot against, I do believe it was for the WBA, against Joseph Parker, but Anthony Joshua. He passed his test and he was allowed to fight. That's the same scenario. That's why people are throwing you out. And Luis Ortiz has not been allowed to fight Deontay Wilder twice because the second fight hasn't even happened yet. There has to be drug testing for that. If he pops dirty for, I'm going to tell you what I'm sure is not going to happen. If he pops dirty for performance-enhancing drugs, Joshi, they're not going to keep the secret from Deontay Wilder and let him in the ring. Out of here, man. You guys get thrown out because you talk nonsense. Nothing about what you said was true. You broke out the rule book, not me. Drink more water. I told you. I know that let me be clear about this. Drink more water, because you combine a bunch of issues. I said that the WBO named him as the mandatory. I never said that they were not allowed to do so in their rules. I never said that. I never questioned the whether or not the WBO violated their rules to do it. You said that the reason why they did it was because Alexander Usyk was an undisputed champion and because Terrence Crawford was an undisputed champion. You cited a rule and basically said that that's the only reason. You implied that was the only reason that it happened. I then went to the rules and pointed out that number one, it doesn't say anything in there about being undisputed. So undisputed isn't even a criteria. So you were wrong about that. But I named all the other reasons why they could do it. So I never had an issue with the fact that the WBO did it, and the WBO, I never claimed the WBO violated their rules because I knew that they didn't. Because the WBO can do whatever the WBO wants to do because they got loopholes you can drive trucks through because it's whatever their committee thinks is right. They don't have to give somebody super champion status if they meet those requirements. They give it to them if it's applied, if they apply for it, and they approve it. I never said, nor do I. Matter of fact, let me state this in the positive. I know that they follow their rules by announcing that. I just believe that their rules are stacked in the favor of, interpreted in the favor of, executed in the favor of Bob Arum. And you are supporting it. But if I did the same thing in a different scenario and I showed you that, you don't have an issue with it. You have an issue with it if it's Dillian Whyte and performance enhancing drugs, because it's in the rules of the BBOC. Eddie Hearn didn't do anything wrong. He didn't. He followed the rules. And that's what Eddie Hearn is saying. I followed the rules. Listen to what he said to Fred. I followed the rules. I found out about the positive test. We took that to the BBOC. The BBOC said, allowed the fight to happen. So I didn't do anything wrong. Dillian Whyte didn't do anything wrong. If you have an issue, go to the BBOC. And the BBOC will say that's in our rules. So I guess everything should go away because it's in their rules. Right? Of course not. I'm saying that the WBO rules are unethical. And the way that they are clearly, the way that they're enforced or applied is based on whatever Bob orders. They don't have a single PBC fighter holding their belt. The WBO president testified against Al Haymon in a court proceeding on behalf of Bob Arum. Do you see Mauricio Sulaiman getting in, stepping in the middle of contract disputes between promoters? No. That's why the promoter of Alexander Povetkin didn't have to pay that $4.5 million, because Mauricio Sulaiman said, look, I don't know whether or not he was on performance enhancing drugs or not. I'm not getting in the middle of that. And since he didn't get in the middle of it, the appellate court dismissed Deontay Wilder's claim for his $4.5 million because they could not determine whether or not they violated the WBC rules, because the president of the WBC refused to get into the middle of it in a dispute between Lou DiBella and Rabinski. The WBC didn't get in the middle of it, but the WBO president gets in the middle of a dispute between his number one promoter, Bob Arum, and Al Haymon, and to this day, doesn't have any of Al Haymon's fighters. I don't believe any of them are ranked, but if they are ranked, definitely none of them are champions. They have an issue with the PBC. The PBC has all the championship belts, and all of a sudden, they're going to mandate that the winner of the WBC belt immediately fight about one of their existing champions. And you know this is the case, and you know it, which is why I don't understand why you just won't say it. You just want to defend Terrence Crawford no matter what. Terrence Crawford could rob a bank, dog, and you'll be like, those cameras are lying. Get out, man. Get out of here with that, man. WBC is the most corrupt organization. Yeah, sure. Okay. Whatever. How many PBC fighters are ranked highly in the WBO? How many PBC fights being sanctioned to the final eliminators? None, exactly. But Drink More Water want to act like that's just coincidence. That's coincidence that that's going on. But that is why you write arguments down. You trying to make a straw man argument, drink more water. I never said that the WBO violated their own rules. You just trying to give me a rule that allowed them to justify doing something that they would have found a reason to do. It's just a coincidence, though, with Terrence Crawford. But hey, it's just a coincidence that the BBOC allowed a pay-per-view fight to go on with the guy that tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, didn't notify the sanction, and didn't notify the guy, his opponent, and allowed the same guy that they allowed into the ring with performance-enhancing drugs to put on gloves that had not been approved, and then would not allow his competitor to Oscar Rivas to inspect him because the fight was too close. And let's be real, I believe that that's the same reason that they didn't allow Oscar Rivas to check those gloves, the new gloves he brought in, is the same reason that the BBOC let him fight with performance-enhancing drugs to begin with. Because they were put on a time crunch. This fight is happening a day after tomorrow, and do you understand how much money we're going to lose, and how much money it's going to cost, and what a big setback it's going to be for the sport of boxing if this fight doesn't go? Mr. BOC, you must allow this to go on for the good of boxing. For the good of boxing. Well, it's in our rules. The BBOC says, BBOC bylaw, says that we can interpret our rules however we need to, as long as we think that it's in the best interest of boxing. So even though, he tested positive, we're not 100% sure because we haven't seen the B sample. And considering all the economic constraints that will be placed on the sport of boxing, we're going to allow this to go. It's in the rules, drink more water. It's in the rules. You know what I mean? It's in the rules. Get out of here, man. Hey, don't time this dude out. He about to get thrown out, dog. I don't like that dude. When I said what I said, it had zero to do with the rules. It's common sense. He was an undisputed. It had everything to do with the champ. What are you talking about? You pointed me to the rules. Now you're going to lie, Drink? You pointed me to the rules. You said they did it because of this. Because he was an undisputed champion. What are you talking about? You said it was because it was common sense now. Now it's just common sense. Oh, they allowed him to fight because he's undisputed. It's just common sense. Retreat. Dude, don't moonwalk off your stance, dog. Don't moonwalk off your stance. You said it was because. And then we talked about the rules. And then you put the rule in the chat like 8 times. But now it had nothing to do with the rules? Now it has nothing to do with the rules? Even though you put the rule in the chat 8 times? Drink more water. You have now retreated off of your original point. You are now making shit up. And it is very, very, very apparent to everybody in here that you're doing it. I can go back in the chat and see you literally put the rule in there. You get producer credits today? Yeah, if you want that. You literally put this shit in the rules. Did you delete somebody? Where is it? Dog, you said it was get out of here, man. You put the shit in the rule. You put the rule out there multiple times, dude. After you broke out the man, stop. So let me see. So you don't know why they did it then. You're guessing. Is that what you're saying? You're just guessing that that's why they did it? So you don't know. Okay, it's because I broke out the rule book. So you don't know. You don't know why they did it. You're just guessing. If you don't know why they did it and you're just guessing, then why are you talking at all? You don't even know what you're talking about now. That's how you're going to end this off. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know why. I just figured it sounded good. Why do you think it's because it's a unification? I don't know. It just sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Dog, you would be better to hold your guns. It ain't no stop. Oh, you're just going to keep going. All right. Let me announce this to you. Drink more water, you lose. You ran off your point. Now you chalk it up to not the rules. You chalk it up to you just guessing. I just said I was guessing. That's all I ever said. I just guessing. I don't have no reason to be believing what I say. It's just common sense. Ain't nothing common sense about that, dog. Common sense would tell you that they did it because they wanted Bud to have the belt. But anyway, you should have stuck with your last argument, dog, because maybe 3% of the people might have been with you. Now you just look like you're doing what you're doing. You said Bud didn't deserve a title shot, and you told me why he deserved the title shot. Oh, so now you're not saying that the WBO gave him the title shot because of that. You're saying that he deserved it. He just deserved the title shot. It has nothing to do with the WBO. That was never the question. The question was, why was he made the mandatory? Okay? Stop making stuff up, drink more water. I said I had no problem with him getting the fight as a voluntary. Now you're trying to use my argument. I said he could be the voluntary. Obviously, Bud would deserve a shot to fight as a voluntary. Nobody's going to make any issue of him getting a voluntary title shot. The question was why he was named the mandatory. The question about becoming a mandatory has something to do with the WBO naming him the mandatory, not whether or not he deserved the title shot. The question was whether or not there was a grounds to make him the mandatory. This was all around the WBO's action in naming him the mandatory. Now you want to say that it's just because you just think he deserved it. Nobody doubted that he deserved it. We're talking about whether or not that rule was right because we're talking about Usyk and Ruiz. But you would have been okay with it with Usyk and Ruiz. You would have an issue with Usyk and Ruiz. You have an issue with Eddie Hearn. You have an issue with Eddie Hearn. And Eddie Hearn doing the same thing that you're doing, right? But when it's Bud, all rules are off. It's all rules are off when Bud comes into the room. You know, Bud don't want to call out Errol. If Bud doesn't want to call out Errol Spence, hey, who cares if Bud never asked for the fight? It's Errol's responsibility to ask for the fight. It's not Bud's. He's Bud. Why would you say Bud would have to? It's not Errol's response. It's not Errol's responsibility to put himself in a scenario where it's not Bud's. It's not Bud's responsibility to create a situation that is conducive for the fight to be made by signing with an organization or leaving himself open to fight in an organization. It's the other organization's responsibility to bend over backwards to do what Bud wants. It's not everybody in the welterweight division is fighting on Fox and Showtime. It's not Bud's responsibility to be able to fight on Bud or where everybody else is. It's their responsibility to all change their program and adjust everything to satisfy Bud and Bob Arum. That's called being a Bud fanboy, dude. That shit's on Bud. Come on, man. Come on, man. You change every rule to benefit Bud. That's called being biased. I'm applying the rules equally as I can. Anyway, I'm done. Much love to everybody. I'm so sorry, KQKC. I'll beat over to KQKC, drop a little super chat on him for having taken up his time. Respect to drink more water, but dog, drink more water. Don't do it, dog. Now you're running to he deserved it because there's a unification. What? Dude, if unification trumps mandatory, then Jeff Horn should have been able to fight Keith Thurman. What are you talking about, man? You digging yourself in a worse hole. You don't think that Jeff Horn could have unified with somebody? Jeff Horn had 2 other champions to unify with. Jeff Horn could have fought Errol Spence. Jeff Horn could have fought Keith Thurman. That's a unification. That should have trumped Terrence Crawford. But it wouldn't trump them because they made it a mandatory. Stop, man. Dang, drink more water. Anyway, it is what it is. Peace. Hey, Building Charmin Fanon, you killing this dude live. Please, can we change subjects? Bustin' brother. I want to hear about Whyte's fake brother. Yeah, man, Whyte has a fake brother, dog. I'm sorry I ruined the whole thing arguing with Drink More Water about this, man. I'm sorry, man, but come on, man. Anyway, it is what it is. Hey, I promise I won't do that tomorrow. Y'all come back on around. Y'all come back around, you hear? That's Beverly Hillbillies. All right, man, I'm out. Peace.